The following program is the work of the broadcast students at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. BCIT Magazine features news stories from around the Lower Mainland which were produced over the last week. Responsibility for the content of the show rests completely with the students and their instructors.
Up on BCIT Magazine, environmental activists fight for Fairy Creek.
Vehicle fire danger in South Vancouver.
And a new generation of sportscasters. Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Jonah Van Driesum. Let's take a look at this week's news. Vancouver fire investigators say a recreational vehicle that went up in flames this week may have been a case of arson. Locals in the area say the city should have done more to prevent the blaze. Reporter Britney Alfaro has our top story.
In the quiet neighborhood of Marpole, flames are reaching the trees.
I think we shouldn't get too close to this, to be honest.
After a camper van caught fire on 70th and Southwest Marine Drive.
Crews got a call about 10:55 a.m. When they arrived on scene, it was a fully involved camper van with an exposure. They were able to extinguish the fire.
Chief Stroup says camper van fires are dangerous because fire crews don't know what's inside. He says substances such as fuels and propane tanks are big worries.
The fire is suspicious. It's under investigation and they're looking for a cause determination.
Neighbors in the area say that the camper van has been sitting on the side of the road for years.
Well, it always had stuff flowing out, like I want to say debris. It was like garbage, basically. It wasn't like just people's belongings. It was like scraps of this and that and derelict pieces of furniture.
Those scraps and pieces have become a pile of burnt wreckage. Thankfully, no one was injured, but there was damage to a nearby car.
The fire occurred here, behind me. The city has been able to quickly clean up the leftover debris. While it looks like the street has gone back to normal, residents say the city should have done something about the camper van earlier.
And I was surprised that the city didn't do something about it, because it was basically a fire waiting to happen, I feel.
Marpole locals are hoping Vancouver will pay more attention so similar situations can be avoided in the future. Britney Alfaro in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
Reporter Britney Alfaro now joins us live. Britney, do we know anything about who owns the van?
Not much is known about the owner of the camper van, but neighbors in the area allege that the same person who owns the camper van also owns what they are saying is an uninsured truck just up the street.
Have there been any other reports of car fires near the area?
Yes, there was a similar camper van fire in East Vancouver where one person died. Earlier this year, there was also another vehicle fire on the Granville Street Bridge. Back to you.
Thanks, Brittany. Vancouver police have launched an investigation into Canucks player Jake Virtanen after allegations of sexual misconduct surfaced this weekend. A woman accused the 24-year-old on social media, saying that the alleged incident took place at a Vancouver hotel in 2017. The Canucks have also started an independent investigation and placed Virtanen on leave.
Environmental activists who call themselves land defenders continue to fight an injunction to leave the Fairy Creek area of Vancouver Island. A local forestry company has received approval for limited logging in the remote area. The debate is over whether old-growth trees can be saved. Reporter Callie McTavish has the story.
Try not to get too emotional about it.
Farah is one of many land defenders who has been living at the Fairy Creek blockade since August 2020. This 1,000-year-old yellow cedar is affectionately known around camp as Grandfather Cedar. It lives in an area blockaders say is slated for logging.
Teal Jones, the logging company that has put up an injunction in this area, They have proposed cut blocks just up the mountain here. So the proposed cut blocks are actually at the watershed, which is a very, valuable place ecologically.
On April 1st, Teal Jones won an injunction to have protesters removed by the RCMP. Justice Fritz Verovin dismissed the protesters as misguided, referencing that 74% of the area is unavailable for logging due to environmental constraints. Protesters are in the process of attempting to have the injunction repealed.
The injunction was even expected all the way back when this movement first started, so it certainly hasn't affected the spirit.
In a statement, Teal Jones said the company's plans in Fairy Creek have been mischaracterized. We are planning to harvest only a small area up at the head of the watershed, well away from Fairy Creek and the San Juan River. The Wilderness Committee is an organization that advocates for climate change-related policy. They argue Teal Jones is a symptom of a bigger problem.
Right? We should just have better forest policies. And in fact, the government has promised better forest policies.
In September, the BC government released a strategic review which called for an end to all old-growth logging. This map from the Ancient Forest Alliance shows old-growth forests before contact in dark green. This image shows what was left as of 2012, and this is Fairy Creek.
It's no coincidence that these blockades weren't established until after the province had already done its old growth review with no protections on the ground.
For now, land defenders wait to see what John Horgan and the RCMP will do next. Callie McTavish on Vancouver Island for BCIT News Magazine.
Residents in East Van woke up to a furry sight this morning. A black bear was spotted strolling down a pair of train tracks towards downtown Vancouver. Conservation officers are still investigating how the bear made its way so close to the city.
And National Nurses Week in Canada runs from May 10th to 16th. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has illustrated the importance of the nursing community in all of our lives. Many nurses at hospitals across the Lower Mainland have used BCIT as a launchpad to their careers in the nursing industry. BCIT is currently constructing a new, state-of-the-art health sciences facility to address a coming shortage of nurses expected around the world.
So it's projected that the demographic within nurses is quite an aging population. And a lot of people are sort of set to retire in the 3 to 5 year. Wow. And what the concern is that because of the stress of the pandemic, those retirements may be accelerated and may leave us with a significant gap in nursing staff.
Health Canada has announced that children as young as 12 are eligible for the Pfizer vaccine. New data revealed that the vaccine is safe and effective for people between the ages of 12 and 15. Canada is the first country to authorize the vaccine for this age group.
Break, how hostels are dealing with traveler restrictions.
And why the closure of a comedy club is no laughing matter.
Cut. That's a wrap, folks.
BCIT. Your future starts here.
Welcome back to BCIT Magazine. Students of BCIT's School of Energy have won competitions and caught the eye of companies around North America. Now, a fan of the program has made a big financial donation that will benefit future students. Reporter Jordan Prentice tells us how.
The Jean Haas Foundation is a longtime supporter of BCIT's manufacturing program. The foundation's donation will go towards renovating the BCIT machine shop.
ultimately that's going to give the students the best learning experience possible with new renovations and upgrades. So we're very, very grateful for their donation here.
The students in the machine shop are aware of the donation and what it will be used for.
I look forward to seeing what this brings in terms of learning possibilities and improvement when I come back next year.
Kathy Luman, Director of Education Grants at the Gene Haas Foundation, says part of the reason they chose BCIT is because the school's administration is behind the program.
We know that by investing in your program, that it's not just going to stay at BCIT. Your reach is great, and we've witnessed that.
The machine shop renovations are estimated to take about 3 years.
For future machinists to come, we're going to be giving them the best education possible, and staying with the times, and keeping moving forward.
Jordan Prentice in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine.
The COVID-19 pandemic has been difficult on businesses around the world, including Canada's hostel and hotel industry. Reporter Brayden Ursel has more.
It's been more than a year since the COVID-19 outbreak was classified as a global pandemic, and still, Canada's tourism industry is feeling its impact.
Everything's changed a lot. Instead of seeing a lot of travelers coming through, we don't have that as much, so our clientele has changed.
Strict travel restrictions not only stop non-essential travelers from entering the local health area, but it's forcing hostels to cut back on their total room availability.
Currently, we are only running at 50% capacity in the dorm rooms. So a 4-bed dorm would only be a 2-person dorm, a 6 would be a 3, 8 would be a 4. So normally our building sleeps 288 people. Right now we have about, I would say, 75 people in-house.
The BC Hotel Association believes the new restrictions could be crippling to the industry, and British Columbians really need to start following the guidelines.
If the COVID cases go down and the vaccination rates go up, then we can actually save our summer. Because if we don't do this together, we'll lose 30% of our industry. They are completely on the brink of bankruptcy right now.
Even though the pandemic has taken away that true hostel backpacking experience, Samesun Hostel is looking forward to a post-pandemic world where they can bring that back to life. I'm Brayden Ursel, downtown Vancouver, for BCIT Magazine.
Reporter Brayden Ursel joins us now live. Brayden, does the government have any financial programs in place to help struggling hostels?
The province has a recovery grant aimed at helping small and medium-sized businesses, and if eligible, those businesses can get up to $30,000.
And what exactly makes a hostel or hotel eligible for the recovery grant?
When the program was first put into place, the hostel would have to prove a loss of at least 70% of their revenue. Now, that's just 30%. Back to you.
Thanks, Brayden. If you're a fan of stand-up comedy, you may have visited the Kino Cafe in Vancouver. It's been entertaining crowds for decades, but the pandemic has stopped the laughter. Our reporter Joe Paris explains why.
For fans of live entertainment, the Kino Cafe is a Vancouver staple. Every Tuesday since 2007, the sound of raucous laughter has poured out of the venue onto Cambie Street. But ongoing pandemic restrictions have forced the owner, Steve Allen, to clear the stage for good.
The accountant said, hey, if you stay open and you only have half capacity, going into next summer, you will lose another $100,000.
And the local comedy scene is in mourning.
Every time one of our important venues closes, the scene just gets smaller and smaller.
Like my dad smoked a lot of pot when I was little, and I would smell the pot smoke, obviously, and I'd be like, yo, Daddy-o, what's that smell? And my dad would always just tell me that he farted.
For Patrick Maliha, a veteran of the industry, the Kino's closure represents more than just the loss of one of the city's venues.
not being around, it was literally the last venue for people to do stand-up comedy. And comedy is a very unique art form in that it is the only art form where you must have an audience for interaction.
I hope I can get through this because it has been a long night and I am a little parched and I'm sweating and it is taking everything for me not to do this.
It was just, it was just such a perfect size, and like to have to like go after like a Graham Clark or Ivan Decker or Dino Archie, like Erica Sigurdsson, like it makes everybody stronger. And without these shows, without happening, like we're gonna lose a whole generation of comics that could be doing that.
My philosophy was we needed a place in Vancouver where comics, any comic, could come and work out and try new material. And I wanted it to be a safe room for them.
It's all we can hope for to have people like Steve provide a space for the next generation of comedians to grow. In Vancouver, I'm Joe Paris for BCIT Magazine.
Well, if you were looking to attend Vancouver's biggest summer fair this year, you may be disappointed. The PNE announced this week that they will not be hosting the popular exhibition. Reporter Jackson Stevens tells us that even Playland may be on hold.
Vancouver City Council has requested provincial support to keep the PNE operational. They are urging the provincial government to save the cultural icon and the 4,500 jobs it creates by providing $8 million in relief. The PNE has announced the cancellation of this year's fair. Additionally, Playland's reopening has been pushed to the end of May. There are concerns that despite its 111-year history, the PNE could be facing permanent closure.
We're not only talking about an iconic organization that's been around for 110 years in British Columbia, in the city, and entertaining families, generations of families and fair goers and so on. But we are talking about people's livelihoods. These are well-paid jobs for people, and also entry-level jobs for young people that we're the largest employer of youth in the province. And that we also have lots of trades jobs and also have this significant economic impact in terms of tourism and culture.
Jackson Stevens in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
The PNE is not the only event being canceled this year. The Celebration of Light is out for the second year in a row, and additional summer activities like the Pride Parade and Canada Day gatherings will likely not be approved as well. Dr. Bonnie Henry says there won't be any events with large crowds this summer.
Coming up, a display of murals brings history back to life.
And dog owners unleash their frustrations.
I chose BCIT because I know that all the programs are very hands-on. We have our own radio station, like it's one of the best programs that I've ever heard of.
I am starting a job on Monday, so confidence is high.
Honestly, I didn't think it was going to be this fun.
Going live in 3, 2, 1. BCIT Television and Video Production. You've got potential.
Welcome back to BCIT Magazine. A Vancouver Canucks mentorship program has returned for another season. Not for players, but for writers. And it's in honor of one of the greatest sportscasters in the city. My co-anchor, Lucas Celle, has the story.
Covering an NHL game is something many aspiring sports journalists dream of doing. And with the Botchford Project, 3 Vancouver writers were able to do just that. Lachlan Irvin has been writing for 6 years and was at his day job when he found out he was one of the people selected.
And all of a sudden I just saw my notifications going, my Twitter notification just going like off the hook, like I'd never before.
The project is named after the late hockey writer Jason Botchford, who passed away in 2019. Botchford was known for being a mentor to young writers.
I'm super looking forward to it. It's going to be, unlike anything I've ever done before.
On Monday, the 3 recipients got to follow in Botchford's footsteps. They covered the morning skate, interviewed players, and stepped into the media suite to watch the game. They'll also write a paid article featured on the Canucks website. Chris Faber was one of the 9 recipients last season and now has an established media career covering the Canucks.
One of the best nights of my life for sure. Just getting an opportunity to do everything and see what it was like, and now moving into what I'm doing this year, actually having media access. I think last year was a huge step in the right direction to get to where I want to be.
Despite a pandemic and postponed Canucks games, the hope is this initiative continues to inspire young writers in the same way Botchford did for so many years.
Jason was a legend. And so, I just think this is such a fitting legacy project to remember the person, but also the work that he did for so many years covering the Vancouver Canucks. And it's great that we're able to carry on this tradition in his honor.
Botchford changed the sports media landscape in Vancouver with the way he interacted with fans and was always willing to support up-and-coming journalists. He was known for saying, "We need an army." And with this initiative in his name, more troops are on their way. I'm Lucas Shelley in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine. BC recorded its lowest number of people actively battling COVID-19 in 5 weeks. Over 7,000 people are fighting the virus, which is down by 1/3 since mid-April.
One of the brightest and most colorful events of the year is coming in August. The Vancouver Mural Festival is launching a new artistic project to pay tribute to an important neighborhood of the past. Reporter Alexander Marlowe explains.
A mural created by Anthony Joseph on the Georgia Viaduct called Hope Through Ashes, a Requiem for Hogan's Alley, was awarded the BC Heritage Award, which features stories of emergence and neighborhood displacement of Hogan's Alley.
I really wanted to make sure I had a very broad range, as broad a range as possible, as to the history, not only the history of Hogan's Alley, but the people who live there.
After the award, the Vancouver Mural Festival announced the multi-year Black Strathcona Resurgence Project, a collaboration focusing on addressing and reconciling the erasure and systemic racism in the city.
So the project, through curation, will obviously aim to kind of feature different, cultural backgrounds within the Black communities here, while still obviously having a specific connection to the people that were in that neighborhood previously, the stories of those people, the identities of those people back then and today.
Throughout the next few years, the project will aim to connect and display the diverse culture of the many different Black communities throughout Vancouver.
And so it's just more about giving more of a voice and a presence to the Black community. And that's what can be done by having visual expressions be shared through public art by people who are Black, of African descent.
The project begins this August and aims to complete over 40 murals in more than 10 neighborhoods across the city. Alexander Marlowe in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
While many retailers have struggled and even failed under the current COVID-19 climate, some independent bookstores are bucking the trend. Reporter Maurice Katz takes a look.
Many indie bookstores have been able to keep up through the changing COVID-19 restrictions. Some are even thriving, with sales topping 200 books a day. One of the ways booksellers have survived is by finding creative ways to promote online ordering.
Well, we've tried to revamp our web store just to make it a little bit more user-friendly, make it feel a lot more like the experience you get in the bookstore, so lots of customized staff pick options and things like that for people who can't make it into the store.
Jessen says early in the pandemic, business was down 50%, but has since recovered. She credits the bounce back to the strong bookstore community and great support from regulars. Maurice Katz in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
Dog owners have been taking their pets to a popular Vancouver beach for years, but not all the park visitors are happy. A new petition may calm the neighbors, but is it enough to help man's best friend? Reporter Elijah Polson takes us for a walk.
When the tide is low at Spanish Banks, acres of space open up in their off-leash dog park,
letting man's best friend play to their heart's content.
This is where dogs come to run and have fun and be able to be free and enjoy themselves and sniff and run and play with other dogs and bark and, you know, experience that life and that cohesiveness.
However, what should be a positive environment can often become chaos, where those who don't like dogs get aggressive towards puppies and their owners.
I get yelled at constantly, a lot of swear words, a lot of people not understanding anything. Sometimes physical fights. I've had people almost kick dogs. I've had people, you know, pick up a dog and throw it.
Douglas says the source of conflicts can be traced back to poor signage within the park.
Aside from this sign here and the one shown earlier, there are no other signs explaining the boundaries of the off-leash area.
They're misplaced in different areas where normal people wouldn't see them, or they're just in the wrong direction. And because of that, we get a lot of people coming into the park that just doesn't know it's a dog park, thinks that they can just, you know, have picnics.
Douglas is one of many who have signed this petition, which asks the city to improve the signage within the area. But is it an issue to others at Spanish Banks? We asked around to find out.
To be honest, I've really never paid attention to the amount of signage. I'm not aware of there being any issues.
Probably a few more dog signs would be useful. You know, there's lots of dogs and it's a great space, but yeah, a few more dog signs would probably be good.
It's fine if you can't figure it out. Quite frankly, you're not able to read or not paying much attention.
As for Douglas, he hopes the push for more signage is the first step towards an overall improvement of the park.
I just want everyone to know what's going on, to have a good time, to share the space, but to know like how it's going to happen.
Elijah Polson, BCIT Magazine in Vancouver.
Questions regarding the show, you can contact us at bcitnews.com.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Jonah Van Driesum.
And I'm Lucas Shelley. Join us next week for more BCIT Magazine.